Hey guys, it's Abby from Autumn of Pelennor, and today I'm going to be telling you what I read in the first month of 2020. So if you watch my goals video, you will know that this year I'm trying to read my entire TBR. I want it gone, I want it as low as possible by the end of 2020. I had 184 books when I started. Emma from Drinking by My Shelf said a few months ago that I could do her balancing the books sort of videos, and so I have got permission and that's what I'm going to be doing throughout the year. But I'm not going to be so much balancing in and out, it's more physical TBR versus getting rid of it. So I obviously will count books that come in, but if I buy a book that I've already read, that won't be added to the list. It is very similar to hers, but my entire goal for this year, 2020, I am getting through my entire TBR. That's what I'm doing. So we'll see how that goes. First off though, I'm going to start by going through each of the books that I read this month, and then we'll get into some more statistics. The first book I read was The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. It's been a while, by Charlie Mackesy. I was gifted this by a wonderful friend and it's quite a quick book to read, so I thought I'd read it at the very beginning of the year. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars. It's really touching and all the stereotypes you've heard about it I think are true, and I didn't think I would think that. I thought that I was going to be like, yeah, it's fine, you know, it's a decent book, but it's nothing special, and it turns out that it is something special, in my opinion at least. Then I finally read Slaves of the Mastery by William Nicholson. I read the first book in this, The Wind Singer, 2 years ago I think, and didn't really enjoy it, which is such a pity. I actually adored this. I adored this so much. I gave it either 4 or 5 stars, I can't remember. But I really adored this. This was such a fun book. It's at least a 4-star read, and it's made me really excited to read the last book in the trilogy. This really delves more into the depths of the different characters and has made me really connect more with them. And I may have to reread Windsinger at some point to see if I can love that as much as I love this. Then my reread for the BookTube Rereadathon, hosted by Alex Black Reads and Abby Mac Reads, and that was Heidi by Johanna Spyri. This is a contemporary fiction, but it's now, you know, a classical children's book, and it was written in German. Johanna Spyri is Swiss, so German, Swiss, Swiss, German. The challenge was to read a translated book, so this was the one. I really enjoyed this again. Of course, I love Heidi. It's a beautiful story. If you've never read it, it's about a little Swiss girl living on the mountains who then is sent into the city in Germany and lives there, and how that doesn't really suit her. And it's just a really gorgeous book. Next up is Do Not Disturb by A.R. Tor. This is the second book in the Deanna Madden series, and it follows a woman who is a sex cam worker and has urges to kill. Now I don't want to say too much because second book in the series, I didn't enjoy this as much as the first book. The Girl in 6E I gave 5 stars, I adored it. This just didn't quite live up to it, it just wasn't quite there. But I did still really enjoy it. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of tension, I love the development of the characters, seeing how they progress, because obviously if you read The Girl in 6E, a lot of events happens that's going to change our main character a lot, and I really enjoyed seeing how Alessandra Tor really developed Deanna and made her very different to how she was in the first book, whilst also making it the same character. So I really did enjoy this one. I definitely intend to pick up the third book. It just isn't quite as good as 6E for me. Then I finally read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I was gifted this Christmas 2017, 2018, whichever year it was published. Let's see. How bad am I? 2017! My aunt, my lovely, lovely aunt, gifted me this 2017 Christmas. I finally read it, January of 2020. I am a bad niece. I really enjoyed this one. Again, not a full 5 stars. It was really good though, and I loved the OCD rep. If you don't know, I have OCD. It is incredibly manageable compared to a lot of people, including our main character in this book, but I do have OCD, and this was really good rep and really nice to see in a book, because the only OCD I've seen is cleaning everything, and yeah. Then next, I need to learn to drive. I am 23 years old. I still cannot drive. I have chronic illness and I just wasn't able to do it at the normal age in the UK, which is 17. I had school and the chronic illness, didn't mix, and my driving instructor lives on my street, so I didn't want to do it when I was away at uni, and then he was like, come back with the car. So because of Alan, I have yet to learn, but I do need to do this, so I read through the highway code. Then Pompeii, Images and Reconstructions, I think, yes. This is an amazing book. I will just show you the first page. So you can see can you see? I'm not used to a viewfinder. You can see, you know, there's an illustration of Pompeii as it's burning, but this is actually a sheet of plastic and it is over an image of the real current day buildings, and it just really adds life to the city. And it also, I read a lot about ancient Rome and about Pompeii, and it taught me stuff. So about the culture of the Roman lifestyle, and specifically the culture of the Roman lifestyle in Pompeii. So I did learn quite a bit from this book, and it's gorgeous with that really unique design aspect. So 100%, if you want to read this sort of thing, I really recommend. Obviously this is going to be a little awkward to find, but I have got it on my Goodreads, which is always linked down below. So if you do want to find this specific edition, you can find it down there. Journey to the River Sea by Eva Ibbotson. I finally read the third book in this kind of selection that she made in these similar covers. I have the other two back there, you can't see them. She had some middle grade books, they had similar cover styles, they aren't actually related other than their very nature involved. And this is the only one I hadn't read because I never owned it. My parents never picked it up for me, and until I bought it, I hadn't picked it up either. Found it in a charity shop, knew I wanted to read it. 5 stars. Like 100% 5 stars. This book was insane. It's beautifully written, it really captures the essence of everything, and I was hooked on the edge of my seat. I read it in a day. This is amazing. If you've got any kids in that middle grade age range, 100% pick this up for them, and if you enjoy going back and reading middle grade works, please pick this one up because it's amazing. Moon on the Tides by various authors. This is an anthology that I was given when I was studying my GCSEs back when I was 15, so it's about 7 years old now, but I still had it and I'd never actually just sat and read through the entire thing, and I need to get through it, and it's a quick book and I own it, so like it counts on that list. So. And the last book I read in January was Letters to the Midwife. This is correspondence to and from Jennifer Worth. She does the Call the Midwife series. If you're British, you know exactly what I mean because it's been on BBC. It follows midwives, Jennifer Worth. It was her memoir, the book, and they adapted it. And it follows her and the other girls that worked with her in the 50s in East London, working as midwives, and the terrible conditions there that can be in the worst circumstances compared to a Dickensian novel, and how they dealt with that and how they brought life into the world. And I adore those books. I have one left to read which is In the Midst of Life. This one wasn't my favourite though. It's literally like people, you know, fan writing to the author or the author writing back, things like that. And it was interesting because these people often wrote to her because they have stories of their own about something similar, but it just wasn't my sort of thing. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. For me it's a 2.5, but just for categorisation it's a 3. It's not a bad book, it was just difficult to get through, which is why it's the last book on the list, because once I finished it I didn't want to pick up anything else for the rest of this month. And those are all the books that I read in January. So I've written down all the statistics of my reading for January, so let's get into it. Overall in January I read 2,180 pages over 10 different books. On average I was reading 70 pages a day, and it took me around 3 days to finish each book. I read 8 paperback books, 2 hardback books, 7 standalones, 2 trilogy books and 1 from a series, and I read 6 adult books, 1 YA and 3 kids. The paperback I expected. I didn't expect the standalone. I did expect to read more from series, and I'm always surprised with how much adult I read. So, it's getting old, I should really stop being surprised about it. Then, in terms of my star ratings, I gave 2 5 stars, 5 4 stars, 2 3 stars, and 1 2 star. In terms of the pages that I read, 2 of the books were between 300 and 399 pages, 4 of them were between 2 and 299, 2 between 1 and 199, and 2 books under 100 pages. I actually read 1 book published before 1920, that was Heidi by Johannes Berry, and I read nothing from 2020, which is expected because I'm reading backlog, and the rest of it is from the start of the century up till now. 2 of the books that I read were translated, meaning that 8 weren't, and in terms of the genres, I read 1 classical, 1 contemporary, 1 fantasy, 1 historical fiction, 1 literary fiction, 1 memoir, 1 crime mystery thriller, I tend to lump those guys in together, 2 non-fiction, and 1 poetry. And in terms of representation, 5 of the books that I read didn't have any specific representation. 1 of them had disabled rep, 2 of them had mental health rep, 1 had native rep, and 1 had sex worker rep. And all of the books that I read were either from Europe or North America, which does not surprise me. I'm expecting these stats to stay kind of similar in terms of a lot of white authors, probably around a 50-50 mix of male and female. This month it was 4 male, 4 female, and 2 mixed, so 2 with both genders. No 1 non-binary or anything else that I currently can't think of. I am expecting that to kind of stay the same. I have, I think, roughly even gender, and it's going to be a lot of Europeans, a lot of Americans, and a lot of white people on my shelves. Because I got a lot of these books before I actively thought about expanding my diversity, which isn't great, but I'm going to expand my diversity in the future. There's nothing I can do about it in retrospect. Like, I can't fix it now, I'm still trying to read through all the books that I own, so I'll just work on it when I'm picking up new books and looking at new books to read. And lastly, for my kind of balancing the bookshelves sort of thing, I did ask Emma. She said I could do balancing the bookshelves. I asked her a little while ago and she said it was fine. I've gotten rid of 1 book, but I can't be bothered to find it out and get it from the back of my bookshelves, so it's the other one. Something about the girl who saves the King of Sweden. I'm getting rid of this and that one. I did read this, I did enjoy this, but not enough for me to keep it. And I haven't read The Girl Who Saved the King of Sweden, and I don't think I particularly desire to. I think I just picked it up because it had, you know, like the matching cover with this and because this was alright. So I'm going to be getting rid of that one. So that knocks another book off of my total owned books that I need to read. So I started out the year with 184 books. This month was 184 books, and I read 10 books. However, one of them wasn't on my TBR because I'd already kind of read it and it was the highway book. So I've read 9 books from my TBR, and then I got rid of that 1 book also from my TBR, so it is 10 in total. So I'm left with 174 books on my physical TBR. I should have been reading 15 books every month to get rid of my entire TBR, but I have gotten rid of 10 books. I'm still happy with that, and even if I end up with 50 books at the end of the year, that's a lot better than 184, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so I'm not quite hitting the targets, and I doubt that I will, because 15 books for me is a lot. I don't tend to read in a pattern that would allow for 15 books consistently across a year, but I'm happy with what I've managed so far. Please let me know if you like this more statistically in-depth sort of video. I'm enjoying them, and I'm going to keep on balancing the books and seeing how much I actually get out of my to-be-read physical list versus what I don't, or what I add. Didn't buy any books this month. Woo! So we'll see how it ends up going. I'll leave a link to Emma's playlist down below. I'm sure she'll have a playlist, I've not checked. But for her balancing the books, as well as all the links to my social media, YouTube, Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter, all of that is always down in the description. And let me know in the comments how many books you've gotten rid of from your TBR and whether your balance has tipped the scales in favour of reducing your TBR or whether it's gotten bigger. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!